Impossible ways to improve assessing student progress. Hi, my name is Lucy K-Touch. I am a sophomore at Lake Erie College studying adolescent education with a focus in English and language arts. Today I will be speaking on the negative effects of standardized testing and possible ways to improve assessing student progress. I have done extensive research on this topic in the past, and being a part of Gen Z, I have taken part in many of these tests. It is something I feel very passionate about. I would like to begin with a simple question. Have you ever experienced test anxiety or been worried about how you're going to do on a test, maybe in school or for a big project for work? Chances are that you most likely have had this feeling of nervousness for a test or project. Late night studying to cram for standardized tests are increasing each year. This is such an important topic because the students are the future, and we might be wearing them down with overload on testing and stress. This also has an effect on the teachers and their mental health. Standardized tests have a negative impact on both teachers and students, and it is time to take a look at alternative methods to assessing student progress. In this presentation, I will be looking at the negative effects standardized tests have on students and teachers, and I will be discussing some healthier alternatives for assessing student progress. The first focus is the test anxiety students get about standardized testing. Brianna Brown, a professor of education, wrote an article titled Negative Effects of Standardized Testing, where she stated, "Having a little test anxiety is normal, but for young students to be having high anxiety because of the pressure to do well on standardized testing is not healthy." Brianna conducted a survey of third graders taking standardized tests and found that all of them had higher levels of anxiety about standardized tests than regular classroom tests. These tests put unnecessary amounts of stress on students as young as third or second grade. They feel pressured to do well on the tests for the fear of not getting into the next grade level or letting down their parents or teachers. Older students find themselves studying and cramming for these tests, causing unhealthy levels of stress. This amount of stress and anxiety can actually cause poorer performance on the actual tests themselves. The next topic I feel is important to discuss is the strain that standardized tests have on the teachers. There's a new style of teaching on the rise that is completely driven by these standardized tests. This teaching method is called teaching to the test. Teaching to the test is exactly what it sounds like, teaching specifically what is on the standardized test in order to help the students pass the standardized test. In theory, this sounds great and seems like a solution to the entire problem, but this causes more stress on teachers to teach less engagingly and more focused on getting the information out. This method causes a lack of teacher flexibility in the classroom, making students less engaged and causing them to not really remember the information, but to just take it in for some time. Teachers use this method in order to meet the standards of the test, but this time teaching to the test cuts out time for getting the students actually engaged in the topic, which will make them be more forgetful as soon as the tests are over. This leads me into the article, Short-Term and Long-Term Consequences of a Focus on Standardized Testing in AP Calculus Classes. Gerard Sonner of Harvard University stated, "In 2015, even the federal government, a prime champion of standardized testing, backpedaled and called for limiting the amount of classroom time devoted to taking tests to 2%. Critics argue that even if teaching to the test may benefit students in the short run, i.e. raise their scores on the standardized test, the pedagogical practice does not help and even hurts students in the long run. This teaching to the test can have less effect on students for their future of education and only provide help for the test and the test alone. This gets rid of time for teachers to teach valuable lessons and content and destroys the chance of getting the students involved in class. Most of all, this method causes high amounts of stress on teachers to get everything taught in the span of the school year, leaving no room for them to decompress and really assess their students on their own or even get to know who their students are. Overall, this can cause a negative environment for learning and teaching alike." The final focus is the possible healthier alternatives for assessing student progress. One method I would like to suggest is PBL, or project-based learning. Project-based learning is the teacher explaining the topic or content to the students then assigning a project where the students do the research and work on their own to eventually present their knowledge in front of the class. This is also a great opportunity for self-regulated learning, which gets the students engaged in the content to kind of teach themselves, which helps them remember better. This also is an invitation for creativity and for students to showcase their own abilities. This is extremely important. Gerald Graff wrote an article titled Hidden Intellectualism, where he talked about the importance of engaging students through their own interests. Graff talks about his own life and how he never knew how intelligent he was until after high school when he realized he had so much knowledge about sports. Just because it wasn't something discussed in school, he never thought it was considered being smart. Well, there's a difference between street smart and school smart, book smart. Bringing in students' own interests helps them understand and makes them enjoy class and stay engaged. That street smarts can be used in school to become book smart, which is honestly the whole idea for hidden intellectualism. Another great method of assessment is Socratic seminars. Socratic seminars are where the teacher gives a number of arguable questions or prompts that focus on the current topic of the class. The students then take these prompts or questions and formulate answers based on their own opinions or knowledge. After the students take the time to have answered most or all of the prompts, they all come together and discuss each prompt, showcasing their own knowledge of the topic and getting them engaged with each other in good conversation. This method is also student-led, which provides the teacher with time to give feedback and assess the students. This gets the students to research the topic on their own, which promotes better understanding and better memorization. One final alternative method to assess student progress would be student-teacher conferences. This method can occur weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or however often the students need. The teacher will sit down with each student individually and ask questions about what they are understanding, what they are not understanding, and what is or is not working for them in the classroom. This can also be a time where the teacher assesses the student on current class content in order to see their progress and where they stand. This is great because it is a very casual and relaxed environment for the student and doesn't promote stress or anxiety, and it provides a lot of information for the teacher on where each student is individually, allowing more closely connected teaching. Now, of course, there are some considerable benefits to the standardized testing, such as it is an easy way for each state to collect data on different schools, and they provide information for the government on where schools are lacking and where they're excelling. But the negatives outweigh the positives. Our students are the future, and if we only stress them out in their school years, they will never know how to excel in life. Education should not be about the government. It should be about the students. Each alternative method I mentioned promotes a healthy learning environment for both teachers and students, and it gives just as much information about where students are progress-wise without all the stress and anxiety. In summation, standardized tests are putting negative amounts of stress and anxiety on both students and teachers. It is very important, rather than standardized tests, to recognize the much healthier alternatives to assessing student progress, such as PBLs, Socratic seminars, or student-teacher conferences. And most importantly, education is about the students. In conclusion, by ridding of standardized testing, we can provide a healthier environment for students and educators alike, as well as improve the quality of learning in our schools. The children are the future. Let's not test that. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today, and I hope you have enjoyed my presentation.